Well, welcome. Session 86 of Neighboring 101. And we're focused today on the neighboring holidays, National Good Neighbor Day, Missouri Good Neighbor Week, and there may be some others represented on this phone call today. We really mean for today to be a discussion among practitioners of neighboring, an encouragement for those of you who are pursuing some of these ideas and efforts. We hope to hear from others that are on the call that have um, started sort of neighboring initiatives, or I know there are some that we're going to gather on today that received one of the mini grants from SerMO, and we invite them to share about what they're doing with their grant in their community, and maybe we'll generate some ideas among ourselves with that. So thank you for joining us, and really we want everyone to be able to join in our discussion today. As I mentioned, it's session 86. We do this about once a month. We talk with leaders in the neighboring movement from all across the United States as a way to discover ways that organizations and individuals can use the art and skill of neighboring as part of community and personal development. So thank you for joining us today. And one of our special guests, a known quantity to this group, a familiar face, Jennifer Prophete with the Hopeful Neighborhood Project and National Good Neighbor Day. Jennifer, welcome. And let's see, how many years is this now that you've been headlining or cheering the National Good Neighbor Day movement?
Uh, well, since 21, when we launched Hopeful Neighborhood, and David reached out and said there's this holiday, so we started with just a little social media post, but we got so much response, we started partnering with Missouri Good Neighbor Week, and then we have really been stewarding National Good Neighbor Day beyond leading the task force, but actually sort of stewarding it as the managing sponsor. This is the third year that we have done that. So 3 years of the sort of official, this is our thing to grow, along with the task force. And obviously you can't grow anything yourself, but
Isn't that fun to be able to say task force and grow? Because it sure
yes,
is. I mean, Jimmy Carter signed it into law, right, back
right.
1976, and but there's certainly been an explosion of activity, and
Yes.
you're living that every day. But what are some of those examples and some of those growth things that you want to get a chance to brag about?
Sure. Well, first this year I've started to realize that I need to stop thinking of directing a program, which is my background, and start and realizing that I am not directing anything. I am stewarding a movement because this is moving and there's so many things that happen that I find out about. And I'll share some real highlights from the meeting I just got off of because it's just blowing my mind and honestly brought tears to my eyes. But um I'll share about that later. I will say that in terms of this year, we have a new city coming on. Really two. One is in maybe the earlier stages, but Orlando is starting a Good Neighbor Week. And so that's really exciting. We've got a lot of movement in Central Florida now. Chicago is the other city that's starting a Good Neighbor Week. That'll be smaller this year, but has already gotten some kind of high level support in Chicago. And so I look for that to grow as capacity grows among the leaders there. Connecticut signed a statewide bill, and they have a new was a foundation of social connection in the country, and different states have different coalitions. So Connecticut has a new coalition. They wanted National Good Neighbor Day to be kind of their first inaugural event, and so worked with the governor to sign that into law. And Maine has not worked with the governor yet, but Maine has done the same thing. So they also have
Oh, wow.
a coalition, and their inaugural event is in September on National Good Neighbor Day. That's the first thing that they're doing. So we really are going. And then San Francisco has just blown us away. Some of you may have seen on our socials that it was on local television yesterday. They interviewed the founder for San Francisco Good Neighbor Week. This is the second year for that. So we're really going we're coast to coast for sure. All the corners are now really engaged in celebrating. And of course, lots and lots of cool neighborhood celebrations in between. Those are kind of the big highlighters in terms of big movement that's happened this year.
Well, there's new things that pop up all the time. I think I saw something out of Massachusetts that you
Yes.
had shared, that a movement that's growing there. I know
Yes.
when I was in the Denver area last week, Adams County, which is north and east of Denver, a big area, they are rolling out 5 day,
Yeah.
five events, and for starting on National Good Neighbor Day. So there seems to be something new every day popping
Yeah.
up, and some efforts in Washington State that have continued in some communities there, but maybe have not gone fully statewide yet. So uh,
Yeah. I
this is
want
all
to
exciting.
shout out. Yeah, and I want to shout out that most places will say, if you ask them, that they get a lot of inspiration for doing what they're doing from Missouri, from the things that are happening in Missouri. So, that's not just David's work, although it is David's inspiration, but all of you on the call who have done different things and are planning to do different things. Missouri has really emerged as a leader in this way. And all of these places are taking inspiration from what's happening here. So it absolutely matters that you're connecting just with your neighbors. And if that's all that ever happens, that still matters. But I
Mm.
want you to know that the ripple effect is way bigger than you may feel. It really is. Um, that Missouri's really definitely becoming a leader in this way. So kudos to everyone here.
Well, I am so glad you used the word ripple effects.
It's another thing probably
Because
re-inspired.
because absolutely we do see that, and I that brought to mind a couple from last week. Bryant, Arkansas is launching, the city of Bryant, uh, uh, a Good Neighbor Week effort there because of what they saw going on in Missouri. Great example. I've seen some publications. Rural Missouri, for example, has really hopped on board, done some very meet your neighbor sort of monthly installments. One last month from a gentleman in, oh gosh, I don't want to say the wrong town. I think maybe it's Mexico, Missouri, who sits in his front yard and waves every day, waves at the ongoing passing cars in the
Mhm.
neighborhood. That's his whole thing and how he's known. And they're seeing the power in telling these types of stories about neighbors who are engaging. So not just the fact that you're organizing something, but telling those stories of the impact
Mhm.
and what you're doing, that is a big part of helping this to
Yeah,
spread coast to coast,
yeah,
coast to
yeah.
coast. Well, I know others are on the call that have undertaken some efforts here last year or maybe new for this year to celebrate either National Good Neighbor Day or Missouri Good Neighbor Week. And honestly, we want to hear from you because I think others will be encouraged by your examples of what you're doing, big and small. And we just open the floor to you if you'd like to share, or I can call a few of you out and prime the pump one way or the other. I, you know what, I did have a brain slip here. I do want to mention this to begin with. Um, I did kind of change the theme for Missouri Good Neighbor Week this year. It's our fifth year, and the new theme is a year of neighboring and a week to celebrate it. So last year, the first 4 years, we tried to cram everything into that week. You have to do it during that week to earn points for your city. And I was hearing more and more from cities saying, hey, we can't do something that exact week because of something else in our town, but we're going to do it the week before, a week after, or whatever. And so, really, we'll start thinking about how do we capture those types of events and activities that are inspired by the week, and maybe turn the week into more of a chance to tell the stories, to do the award presentations for the most engaged neighbors and neighborly businesses and things as a week to celebrate it. And that kind of shift has and encouragement has really led to sort of a year-round effort to report acts of neighboring through the website and for people to nominate individuals for awards. And I have a list that's coming to you, Jennifer, an expanded list. So I can report today because I just checked and update our website. We're actually up to 34,139 acts of neighboring in Missouri already this year. Our goal was 50,000. I think when we first started this, Jennifer, we worked on it together that first year. I know closely, and wasn't our first goal like 8,000, 5,000?
It was 10 and we were really nervous.
That's 10 and really nervous. So we have, I mean, we're a long ways toward that 50,000 goal already this year of things that are being reported and done. And more often, I'm hearing people say we've moved our event to Missouri Good Neighbor Week. I've had a couple of those happen recently. Things that are, it's that momentum. So
Yeah.
back to
And I
you.
also
Oh,
mentioned, because I think it's so inspiring, that was 2022. So that wasn't that long ago. That was 4 years ago when 10,000 felt like a goal that was really aspirational. And I think that's once again just the power of like just taking a step. I don't know where everyone's at here, but if you're like, well, my city would never do this, maybe in 4 years you're like, we're at the county level already. You never know. But that's just one of the things that I keep reminding myself from that story, David, is that that was just 4 years ago. It wasn't, they went fast and felt like forever ago, all at the same time.
that's a really good point, Jennifer. And I think we maybe ended up at 10,000 because of people we talked to in the city of Houston, Missouri, that were promising like
It's
3,000
true.
acts of neighboring, right?
It's
In
true.
in
We
Houston.
Yeah. So we're like, okay, maybe like the year before we had, I don't know, 4 or 5 is what you were counting. So we're like, all right, we can count on at least here or there. So let's be aspirational. And I think we did eclipse it by a few thousand. So it was a really good response right away.
Yeah,
But also might be a little lesson here in goal setting that I could learn for myself. Because then the next year we did 15,000 and we surpassed that. But
yes.
just that incremental goal setting and communicating it, I think was also helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what are some plans that the rest of you have? We're ready to be inspired and encouraged by what you have going on. And anyone want to jump in? If you received one of those SerMO grants, maybe share what your mini grant is and what you're doing. Raise a hand or come off mic or get called on. Laura, thanks for bailing me out.
Well, our mayor's block party challenge is just super popular, and we get so many positive comments from people that I don't know what it is about the mayor challenging it or what it is about putting that idea out there that, hey, you can have a block party and counting it towards helping our city to be a most neighborly city is a good thing. But it just putting that in the front of people's minds has made a huge difference. I think block parties were happening, but now we're hearing about them. And so this year we're pushing just here recently, we want to hear all the stories from your block party. That was a piece that we were missing until David said something recently. Actually, it was in his book that I noticed the stories really help encourage the momentum.
You know, even folks in Colorado were talking about Excelsior Springs block parties. It came up there. So your goal last year, I think, was 50. Is that the same goal this year?
No, we switched the goal. We noticed that the block parties were all happening in the same neighborhoods. And so this year's goal was, can we get at least one block party in each subdivision? And so we
Oh,
weren't really counting how
wow.
many, where are they? And is at least one happening in each of our major subdivisions? So it's been more of a challenge this year.
Yeah. That's similar. Colorado Springs does their 1,000 block parties, but they've put great emphasis on having at least one in each of their associations out
Mhm.
there. So, and some can be a struggle to pull off. So, wow, that's a great change.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't happen by itself. I know it takes a lot of effort, and Laura invests a lot of time and effort in helping make that happen in Excelsior Springs. But others are paying attention and noticing. So great example. I know Kirkwood has added someone who's a neighboring specialist and organizer of community volunteers. I don't know about other Missouri cities, but I do know of Kirkwood here recently. Chet,
Hey, David.
hey, great to see you.
You too. I'll throw this in the chat. But I support a program through the Center for Human Kindness at the Columbus Foundation. It's called Kindness Close to Home. There's a link in the chat there. It's a free program that folks can register for. They attend a 30-minute Zoom, and then they'll send them a toolkit in the mail that has name tags, door hanger invitations, a welcome banner, a little $25 gift card to a local grocery store. But it's a fantastic program. Abby Harris Holmes, who's also on this call, is the manager for that center. Give her a shout out. She's amazing to work with. But yeah, it's another great example of folks are looking for other ideas to be inspired by.
Chad, I'm so glad you were paying attention to the attendee list and called her out on that. I've seen one of those welcome kits, and they are fantastic. And if you don't follow them on social media or LinkedIn, you should. What a great example, and love their table talks that they're doing this year to celebrate National Good Neighbor Day. What some really great examples and a great effort there in Ohio. Thanks for highlighting that one.
You bet.
That's perfect. George Miller. I think this may be a SerMO mini grant recipient. Is that correct?
Yes.
How exciting.
So I'm excited to be here. And this is one of the most unexpected things that I was not expecting. So I have been serving St. Lucas United Church of Christ in Sunset Hills for the past 2 years, which is a very large church, which has a big history of doing things bigger and better and grander. But as they've gotten smaller, it's been kind of, well, we can't do the meals because we can't do it the way we used to do it. But what's interesting is for the previous 14 years, I was serving in a small town in Florida with a much smaller church. And one of the things I've discovered is smaller churches in small towns just do. So they're not focused on exactly what they're serving, it's are we serving? So I come from a background where once a month we would have a food pantry and serve some kind of meal. And it didn't really matter what it was that people were being fed. So coming here and having to learn how to navigate as a pastor in a much larger church where people get caught up on the way it used to be, and if you can't have 300 people, is it worth doing it for 50? Which coming from a small town, you're like, yes, even if it's 25. So what is so wonderful is it is our council president, Katie Ferrand, who applied for this grant. And because of the grant, we're doing this the first Sunday in October, which is actually World Communion Day. And it's also when we're going to celebrate as a good old German church, Oktoberfest. So what we're loving is that now instead of it being the pastor inspiring people to do something they stopped doing years ago, it's actually coming from the membership and the leadership who are now the ones saying, well, why can't we do what we used to do, even if it may not be the same size or look the same? So I'm excited about this because what I'm going to get to watch is a church that used to do this, stopped once COVID hit, has been too afraid to restart. And now because of the mini grant, they have the ability to be brave and free, do this in a way that maybe is brand new, and discover that they could do this maybe every month, even if it may be a smaller size or it may be more like soup and bread than the big gourmet things they used to do. So I'm really appreciative for this because I've been waiting for this to take place. And I love that it's coming from the congregation, not from the pastor.
What a great story, and
Yeah.
what a great example. Um, give us a frame of reference. You're saying this might be a smaller event. What type of
So,
participation are you thinking of?
so I want to be very careful. Coming from a small town where we would do a food pantry and a meal and would serve maybe 150 families, maybe 200 people a month,
Wow.
right? This is a church that had over 1,000 members, so they judge numbers and attendance much differently than a small rural church would.
Hmm.
I'm expecting to maybe have 100 people come, and I would see that as a success. I don't know how the church would judge it, but again, we haven't done this in at least 7 years.
Yeah.
So who knows what it's going to look like. We're also in a very affluent area. So part of it is how to get the word out, but also how to process this that we may have a lot of elderly people and a lot of widows and a lot of widowers who are coming. And Lord knows they deserve food and fellowship. So this is going to be a brand new experience, I think, for me and for everyone else to see what this is going to look like. Is there a number that you guys are hoping for?
You mean across the whole state or for a
No,
particular mini grant recipient?
right. In terms of this mini grant, what would a number be that you would see as a measurable success?
We didn't really assign numbers, like we're
Yeah.
only going to fund things that are going to reach this many people. And we can talk about that a little more. Even I'm sure Jennifer will want to jump in on this topic too, because it's not always about the numbers, right? We
And
talk we talk about the ripple effects. It's the connections that flow out from that type of thing.
and that makes me feel good because living in the South, success is measured totally different than when you live in a German community that measures everything by facts and time and data. And I say that as a German, but it's noticing that in this particular community, success is measured by can you put it on a graph and actually concretely say what it is? Where in
Yes.
the South, you don't measure it that way.
I'll give you an example from my own driveway. We hosted an ice cream supper on July 5th for our neighbors, and we had about 23, 24 people come. And and my wife that evening said, "Well, I really expected more people because we've had somewhere we've had more people."
Right.
And do you think that was a success? And I said, "Did you see?" And I mentioned two ladies' names, two widows. They live on opposite streets. I apparently had never met before in our neighborhood. They arrived early. They sat in chairs next to each other for 2 hours and talked the entire time to each other. When I was cleaning up, they were still standing on our driveway talking. And
Amen.
then the next day, I saw them walking the neighborhood together. Said, so we could have had just two people, and that would have been a success story.
Amen.
So those types of connections and ripple effects are much more meaningful and impactful, I
Amen.
think. Jennifer, you want to jump in? What do you think? How do you come down on this idea of numbers and stuff?
Yeah, I mean you hit on it. I think for National Good Neighbor Day, this has been the internal conflict, and therefore the thing I've had to discipline myself about the most is this like numbers versus what we're really doing here. And so I have said publicly enough so that I'm held accountable for it. The North Star for National Good Neighbor Day isn't a number, it's connections. So although we love events, it's not about events. It's about did you connect with people? So although I will, share some about events, even in my narrative, of presentations on our website, all these things, I try to make sure that I highlight, the neighbor who drops off something. Let's see if I can get this quote right. I was just on this call that I've got so many stories from. It was just an hour-long call. But this woman, I guess, runs an organization. I can tell you more about the rest of it. But in this micro story, she runs an organization called Hello Neighbor. And she they do a lot of events in this organization. So for National Good Neighbor Day, they decided to make little packets for everyone. So like a cup with candy in it and a gift bag with a tag and hang it on 100 doors. And so, some people were home and that was great. Some people weren't. And apparently the next day, someone went around and tried to figure out who left this thing on her door. She was new to the neighborhood. And eventually found out that there was this family. She came to the door, she knocked. She said, "This is the first time in the United States that I've ever felt totally like comfortable and at home." Because this feels like something that would happen in my home country, and I don't know what that country was. And so she said, and I won't be able to get this totally right. She said she needed to be reminded that you don't always and you can't always bring neighbors out to an event. You just have to remind them that they belong. And that really touched me a lot. That reminds them that they belonged part. And so whatever your numbers are at your event in Oktoberfest, if you remind people that they belong, that is your success. You've reminded them that they belong.
That's a great metric.
Yeah.
And people, we always say about neighboring, it's not a microwave, it's a crock pot. And for some people, it takes a while. I had a neighbor that he didn't come to anything we did for 2 years. And when he finally showed up and I asked him, he said, "Well, I've been watching you guys and it's starting to look like you were having fun." It took him 2 years to get to that point. So consistency and sticking with it, right?
Yeah, and I think in terms, I don't know all of your congregational goals for getting that mini grant, but I think as institutions in our neighborhoods, that is also one of the goals is to make sure that people understand that the institution is there as a member of the neighborhood. And that, especially in today's age where there's a low trust in institutions, that doesn't happen on one day, but it does start with one day. So you got to start, and then you got to understand that it takes some of that consistency, but it's worth it and it'll pay off because I think, there's the neighbor connections, but you've also added another layer of institutional connection. And I think that's a valuable thing to consider and to, understand the patience that it takes because, in other places and in other times, institutional trust was higher than it is now.
Yeah. Yeah. And we love this idea of connecting it to holidays because that kind of helps reduce the awkward for some people. It's not just a random invite. It's invite because it's National Good Neighbor Day, right? It's not just a random bag with a goodie. It's because it was Missouri Good Neighbor Week. So I'm doing something. So it helps reduce awkwardness for some people. Well, that's an encouraging example. Reverend Miller, appreciate you sharing that. Any others that are on that had one of the 15 mini grants from all across the state? I think I'm remembering that number right. It was $15,000 total, and they had 39 applicants. So requesting a lot more as far as like total, much more than the 15,000. But I can tell you that SerMO was very encouraged by the number of grants received, and talks are already going on about next year and finding some bigger sponsors and doing even more with that. Oh, Misty, are you able to share about the community foundation there in Poplar Bluff?
David, you also have Cindy on that came off mute that I think is ready to share.
I'm sorry.
Maybe after Misty.
Cindy, then.
I can't see myself, so I don't know if you can see me. Can you see me?
We can't, but we can sure hear you well.
But you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm the coordinator for the Community Foundation. So I really just kind of took the initiative to do this when I saw the opportunity, and I've kind of ran with it. So this is my first experience with this, but I'm pretty excited, and we've got our event planned for October 2nd. And I'm just trying to organize and get lots of community involvement. And so far, we've had a pretty good turnout of people that want to be involved. So,
what is it that you're doing on October 2nd?
Well, we're just doing a Community Connections Day. We are having a meal in the park, and part of what we have done with the Community Foundation, we are the affiliate here, and we have several other nonprofits under our wing, basically, like the Roberts Adventure Playground that was put together here at McLean Park. And so we're going to be having the event there at McLean Park, and kind of, highlighting that that was one of the things that we have worked on, and trying to connect community entities that need nonprofits that need volunteers and things like that with people that want to volunteer and vice versa. So kind of doing a connection between everybody as much as possible.
Yeah, that's a great effort. And we love the fact that these grants were able to represent all the different corners and parts of Missouri, spread far and wide across the state. Uh, Jamie Oberly, I see a hand up here.
I don't want to speak on top. I think Cindy was next. You go first, friend, okay?
Oh,
I'm sorry, David. I know I'm
no,
not in charge, but I don't want to step on top of. I just figured out how to raise my hand. Go, Cindy.
go
Thank you.
Cindy.
Thank you, Jamie. My name's Cindy Sadler. I am the pastor for Bismarck United Methodist Church in Bismarck, Missouri. And we have a small pie shop in town by the name of Granny Barb's Pie Shop that has kind of become a third space, if you will, a place
Yeah,
where a lot of people connect. Our church is very involved in food ministry, and we're a very small church. My average attendance on Sunday is right now 15, but we do a free meal once a month. We have a blessing box. So we partnered with Granny Barb's to write this mini grant to do an event on Good Neighbor Day, which I think is Tuesday, the 28th,
yes,
end of September. We're going to do a longest table in town on Main Street. We're going to shut down Main Street and put a bunch of tables together, and Granny Barb's is going to cater the meal. And we're going to invite folks to come and just join for a community meal and connection. We have been doing our free meal for many years, and when COVID hit, we had to move away from people coming into the church and sitting down to this drive-through thing that we can't seem to get people away from. I haven't had the heart to just shut it down and say no more drive-through yet, but nobody's coming in anymore. We're feeding them, but we're not getting the same connection as sitting down. So this is going to be you have to register, you have to come sit down and share some time and get to know each other event in our community. And we've already got a few other organizations that will partner. We have a few other churches besides the Methodist Church that get together and do other events and things throughout the year. I am proud of our community for that. Our Assembly of God, Baptists, Methodists, we all get together and do uh, things for the good of people, for feeding people. And so I know that we'll have volunteers from all of those that jump in and help with this event. We're looking forward to it.
well, what a great example. And as soon as you said the word longest table, I saw people's eyes light up across the board here. Several people are familiar with that concept and familiar with Tim Jones out in Colorado. Frame of reference, what's the size of Bismarck?
I don't know the exact population, but I want to say around 1,500 max. And our school, it's a very poor community. Our school district is one that has a lot of underserved and poverty. In fact, everybody in the whole school gets free lunches, free breakfast. They've just given it to the full district. So food insecurity is a real issue in our county and in our area, in a lot of areas of the country, I know, but it's something that's always on our hearts, and especially with the rising costs right now and groceries and so you're right. Longest table was not an original idea. But I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel. If there's something that really works well and that can bring people together to connect, my hope is just that people come and sit down and have a conversation because, of course, I'm faith-based, and that's how Jesus met people. He broke
Yeah.
bread with them and talked with them and formed a relationship with them before he tried to do anything else or besides, help and heal.
Well, that connection that can happen across the table or that connection that happens in face-to-face conversation is so, so very
Yes.
important. And the communities that I've heard of that have started in the past have tried something like this and started with 2 tables. And the next year they have 4 tables, and the next, that the way it has grown and has built connections for people is really encouraging. And I just love that example, and love that Bismarck is taking that on. What a great project.
Thank you.
We'll love to
Yeah,
hear about your results. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I just wanted to say I think it's a fantastic idea, and I don't want to. I've heard maybe a little apology in your voice if it's not an original idea. Um,
Oh.
there's no original
It's
neighboring
true.
idea.
It's
That's
true.
not the point. And so but it takes doing, and that's the part that's really actually getting to be more and more special. And I just think it's fantastic. I am a huge fan of small towns, coming from one, and small towns used to just be naturally good at this like everyone else, and they're losing it, and it's one of the beauties of small towns. And so I just think this is fantastic. So I am so excited and inspired by what you shared. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Bismarck is actually kind of trying to revitalize, and we've got some new businesses coming in, and so I think we'll have some energy behind people getting business owners, et cetera, getting behind and helping.
And what a beautiful part of the state you're in there, near Farmington and Park Hill, south of St. Louis a ways, Jennifer, but beautiful area that you're in. How encouraging. Jamie, I think you were so kind earlier to step aside. I think it's your turn now.
It is my turn. So my camera is not on, but I love seeing all your smiley faces, and I also really love all the ideas that are popping up in the chat. So thank you to all of those good ideas and these wonderful folks that are on the call. This is my first time of being part of SerMO, and I'm excited that we were one of the awardees of the fund. So go us. So we named us our project Community Heroes in Action. So as West Central Missouri Community Action Agency, where I'm blessed with working from, we're going to connect our senior housing properties. So we have Oak Tree Villas, and then our Head Start Center. So we do a lot of focusing on elderly and little people, bridging that divide between them and being able to give that good influence. So the opportunity is, and it's not just Oak Tree, it's going to be all of ours. So all of our properties, we're going to do bingos for kiddos. So to play bingo, the elderly folks can bring in household supplies, hygiene products to play bingo. And then we're going to use that momentum to, I'm going to say, package up household things that can go to the kiddos at the Head Start Center. And in turn, the Head Start Centers are going to create thank you notes and artwork and different things that we can take back to the senior properties to be able to share and connect those relationships, hopefully for the future. Again, this is our first time working with Missouri's Good Neighbor Week. So we think this starting place will really put that ripple effect on what we can do in the future, starting with just one property primarily. But let's face it, all of our elderly folks like to play bingo. Who doesn't like to play bingo? So it's a good opportunity, and it's also going to be able to connect those Head Start centers with supplies that we know that they need, especially, as school's starting to kick off, and, they need that laundry, soap, and those things that are really part of their necessities, and so I'll quit rambling.
No, it's a
I'm
great
excited.
idea. Yeah, you absolutely should be. What a great idea to pull people together, and what a great opportunity for photo ops. At least 30 years ago, the joke among newspapers was if you could get a child, an elderly person, and a dog in the same photo, you had the perfect photo. So
I don't know about
you've
the dog, but we can do the others, I'm sure of it.
and that'll be great to see those connections made. And you're reaching beyond the children too. You're actually impacting their families. They're involved as well, right? Yeah. Which reminds me, I think, Laura, didn't you say you have something going this year with elementary schools?
Well, I haven't been able to connect with the principals yet because they're in the busy time of getting
Oh,
school
yes.
started. As soon as like a week or two into the school year, I'm going to reach out to the principals at the elementary schools, and I have handouts that explain Missouri Good Neighbor Week. And as a city, we created a daily activity. One is decorating your driveway with sidewalk chalk. One is taking a note to a neighbor or a small gift to a neighbor. One is walking a local trail or visit the neighborhood park. So we created something to do every day. So I'm hoping to send that home with each elementary student and reach families that way.
Excellent. And I had an email this week to kind of share on this phone call received that the City of Independence is joining into the effort this year of Missouri Good Neighbor Week. They are planning a citywide community cleanup during that week, and then they are also doing some other separate activities that target assistance in specific neighborhoods, like trash and junk removal, uh, volunteer assistance for elderly, and some of those living with disabilities. That's the approach they're taking for Good Neighbor Week. So it's great to have Independence on board. That's a big Missouri city jumping in on the effort. Love that. Others that are on the Zoom today, other examples. Don't hold back. Well, Jennifer, you mentioned that you'd had a recent phone call, Zoom, that looked like it was starting to make you tear up. Did you want to share any more from that?
Yeah, I will share a little bit more about that because I do think it actually matches in this pretty well. So there's a partner of National Good Neighbor Day. Their organizational title is new, so it's called Inclusion Seekers, and they are essentially, and I can't explain them really great, but they are a support sort of nonprofit for families that have children with disabilities. And I believe they started as a little bit more of an in like a daycare kind of situation, but discovered a few years ago that that was less of a need, and also that their support of these families was really limited because uh, they weren't always close by, et cetera, et cetera. And so one of the things they started doing was implementing programming that would help families build a support system where they were. And they discovered National Good Neighbor Day, and so they started giving grants of $250. So in some ways, kind of
Mm,
similar to this, to families, asking them to use this grant to celebrate National Good Neighbor Day in some way, to connect with their neighbors in some way. And so they have so many stories. And this is where kind of the movement comment comes from, because I didn't know any of this was happening until last year after the fact. The program director at Inclusion Seekers is like, I thought you might want to know that we've been doing this for a couple of years. And so this year she invited me to listen as they did kind of a show and share with a couple of the families to inspire others. And so they did a variety of things. One person worked with the local organization to collect supplies for the local school. So that had a little bit more red tape to it. But she's like, our neighborhood school is one that we just really need to support. A lot of neighbors aren't always connected, or the neighborhood school isn't as connected in our neighborhood. So she did that. Another neighbor did design a flag day. They've been working on these neighborhood connections for a long time, and they wanted to tap into some identity as well as some gifts that they haven't done before. So they knew that they had some creative people in the neighborhood and wanted to kind of use and showcase those talents. So they all came together, they divided up into different groups and added elements that they might want in a flag. And then one of the people that has these gifts, these artistic gifts, designed a flag for them. And this year they're using the grant to print these flags. That was their project. And I thought that was really, really cool. I told you already about Operation Hello Neighbor, and they delivered these little things and had a great story about that. Another person went and did she got stuff for a lasagna bar and a taco bar, and got permission for just to use a parking lot in the neighborhood. And she said that wherever they live, I'm not sure where, they had a big it's a big football town, so she expected people just to come, grab some food, and go home and watch the games. Because any of you, Missouri has a few big football towns as well. And so this is kind of what happens often. And she said that's not what happened. They ended up staying. She was so glad they had permission because neighbors ended up staying till 11 o'clock at night. Like she's like, people had to go get chairs. She just wasn't expecting such a big response and for people to like kind of stay so long. And her thought was, she'd wanted to do this for a long time. She'd lived in the neighborhood for 13 years and just hadn't done it. And she learned names of people she'd been saying hi to for years, but didn't actually know them. And so I just thought that was really great. But then when
Yeah.
like some of the quotes, some of the things, this idea that, neighbors just need to be reminded, not just that they belong, and knowing that I was in a group of people who have children that don't necessarily always feel like they belong. They said things like we want to be the change that we want to see. So rather than just looking for organizations that serve our families, which we need, but we also want to, sort of connect and make our families available and connect with people around. And I thought that was just really beautiful. One of the leaders of the organization said, and I thought this quote will show up somewhere because this was great. He said, the neighborhood is the Wild West. And I thought, where is he going with this? And he said, it's just waiting to be explored. He said, there is so much in the neighborhoods and we don't know it. He's like, we tend to stay with people who kind of think like us or belong to things that we belong to or, that we belong to or whatever. And if we would just commit to exploring to this Wild West, that we would be so much richer for it. So then they drop the bomb at the end that they're not just national, they're international, and they're starting to think about doing these kind of projects all over the world. So they're like, good news,
Wow.
bad news, Jennifer, your job just might grow.
Yeah, it's often learning people in your neighborhood, I've said, is like gold mining. You do cross and discover great discoveries.
Yeah.
I see I have a hand raised, but I'm not sure of the name. Moto G. But I see a smiley face and a hand up.
Okay. When I give you my name, you'll know who I am. I'm Vanessa Betts.
Hi, Vanessa. Yeah.
Hi. And I get so inspired, even though I feel a sense of belonging. I don't live in Missouri. I live in Texas. However, when I've gone to several of the summits, the NUSA programs, I've sat underneath Miss Jennifer. I've gotten all kind of great ideas. And we have started a Good Neighbor Day. As a matter of fact, I was a finalist a couple of years ago, and I visited down in Jacksonville. And the stories that you all share are so inspiring. But I'd like to share what we're doing.
Yeah, please.
This is our third year, and we've been doing it, ever since that first year and that I sit in and we were finalists and everything. And so at first, it was just my little area, which is like a subdivision of El Paso. And if you've been to El Paso, some of you came down for the news, so El Paso is pretty big. It is very big. It's separated by a mountain, but it's very big. Well, so many people started coming to ours. So someone said, why don't we make this a citywide thing? Well, my neighbors got upset because they said, no, they just want to take credit for it. And we're the ones that started it. And so one of the businessmen talked to me. He said, and because you all started it, you are the originators. You're the founders. He said, but if they want to go citywide, let go for it. That's a wonderful thing. You don't want it to be something that you just keep to yourself. So I guess that's forthcoming. But as far as we're concerned, ours has gotten bigger in our neighborhood. So beyond just having the regular booths, we have like a big fair, and beyond having the booths and information and stuff like that, our activity director, she said, we don't want to make this just a informational booth. Everyone who has a booth, first of all, we don't sell anything. Everything is free. Everyone who has a booth must have some type of activity for the kids to engage in. So there's a lady I met at the meeting the other day, at a business meeting, and she makes baskets beautiful baskets for people to give to loved ones, sympathy, birthday, you name it. I said, that is wonderful. I said, could you set your table up at our event? And she said, yes. I said, now you can't sell anything, but you can have it there. And would you mind showing the kids how to make baskets? She said, oh, I would love to. I said, well, what do you need? She said, I've got all the supplies and I'll show them how to make baskets for like back to school, for their teachers, for their Girl Scout leader and grandma, whatever. So it's just a matter of connection.
Yeah.
It's not always grant. I don't have the grants, but as you can see, I have the gift of gab. Forgive me. and I'm a professional beggar, so I can go around and just kind of look in their face and say, okay, it's that time again. You know what I need? And they'll say, okay, Vanessa, here you go. Here's $50, here's whatever. And I guess they probably write it off. But I mean, I just wanted to share that with you and I impress that upon my people. Neighbors are so important. I wrote down some of the different quotes that you shared. And just before I end, I just want to tell Pastor Miller to be encouraged. I think his testimony he gave was phenomenal. Each one give one. I mean, whether it's information, it's not about numbers. It's about providing people's needs, not big or small, just doing it from the heart. But thank you for the time.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm sorry I'm not in Missouri to take advantage of some of these things, but I
Well,
do
well, thanks for
I
sharing.
do enjoy you all.
And if you were in Missouri, I'd want to partake of some of your husband's barbecue, if I remember right.
Well, well, you know something? Actually, I have family there, so I may have to find some of these places that you all are talking about when we're driving through.
Well, a couple of
You
things
all have a wonderful day.
well, thanks for joining us, and a couple of things to share as we wind down. I've shared the website link. Just a reminder, as part of Missouri Good Neighbor Week, you can nominate someone for the most engaged neighbor. We had 140 nominations last year. We ended up picking 20 people across the state who receive a plaque or a certificate and $100 check. Is $100 doesn't go as far as it once did, but it's something that we can do to show appreciation and to say we really appreciate what you're doing in your community, and other people have seen it as well. And anybody who is nominated does get a letter and lets them know that they have been nominated. So I think that's important. So that's something you may want to take advantage of in your community, so people to nominate. And then final link that I will add there. This is new this year. This came out of some sponsorship discussions, and I think this is a really big commitment. And there's a panel of 4 judges that are making these final selections. It's Neighbors Bank that's headquartered in Columbia, but they do work nationwide, and they are actually doing a good neighbor contest, taking nominations from all across the United States, and the final selection will actually receive $20,000. So a little more than $100 gift in Missouri. The panel is going to narrow it down to 10, and then those are going to be put out for public vote through a website, and a couple other details I'll hang on to, but it's going to be based on public input after we get down to the final 10. So if you know someone in your neighborhood, this might be a really special way to get them some recognition and tell the story of what they're doing well as a neighbor. Any other items before we wrap up today?
David, could I ask
I wanted to
Oh,
go ahead, Michelle.
go ahead.
just a quick question. Hi everybody. I'm just a retired person and not associated with any government or and I just moved from Raleigh, North Carolina, and I moved to Madison, Wisconsin, last September. And so now I've just kind of got unpacked and got my feet on the ground. And I just wanted to ask really quick, does anyone know of anything in Wisconsin that's happening related to neighboring? And are there titles in the government, like the city and county government, that I should look for that might be responsible for neighboring things? Are there specific people in government with certain titles that I should look for?
Well, that's a great question. I can tell you there is a network of people who work for city government that focus on neighboring. I know Laura Mize is in that group. There's about 150 that are in the group across the nation, but it's still a very niche type of thing. And there's few cities that have that. I mean, I think the group is growing, the interest is growing, but right now it's very much of a niche type of thing. So your local city government might have a department of community engagement, or it might have a department. Sometimes it falls under the planning department.
Sometimes Parks and Rec.
Oh, okay.
So that
Thank
might
you
be
all.
and there's organizations popping up everywhere doing this type of encouraging work as well. So be sure and look for those types of opportunities.
Where did you say you are, Michelle, in Wisconsin?
Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay. Yeah, I think, is that Chet? Are you the one? I just saw a little bit. Are you the one who put Jesse in there?
Yeah, I think Jesse's in Verona, Wisconsin. I just put his contact info.
Yeah, isn't that close?
It is
Is that
close.
close
Thank
to me?
you.
he's
Yeah.
building a fantastic platform to help, civic associations, block watches, communities, help better connect nearby neighbors and do events. And they're continuing to add additional tools and elements and
Thank you so
features.
much. I
And so,
appreciate that. That'll be
Yeah, but
helpful.
also since he's local, he'd have a good sense of just who to connect you with locally beyond,
Yeah.
no, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, and help me with my geography. Isn't Green Bay in Wisconsin?
It is
Green
in
Bay.
Wisconsin.
It is.
Yeah,
Haven't
okay.
been there
Yes.
yet, but it is.
Thank you. And the city of Green Bay does a big event for National Good Neighbor Day, and they have for several years. And
Oh, good. Thank you.
they do have a specific person in that city whose name currently escapes me, but they have a website, a portal on their website about their National Good Neighbor Day efforts there in Green Bay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time
Yeah.
and the help.
There's
Well,
one more new resource that I just added 2 days ago to National Good Neighbor Day that I'll mention real fast. But we have a new partner who focuses on solo agers. So people who are aging in homes or apartments and live by themselves. And she's doing similar to this inclusion group, just trying to help them understand that knowing some people around you helps you solo age, and that they also have benefits to share. And so she's put together a really cool resource just to help celebrate National Good Neighbor Day and get people who are living alone connected with each other. So I just want to, if any of you are interested in adding some of those elements to some of your celebrations now or in the future, that resource might be really helpful, even just individually, to be like, okay, who's in my neighborhood who's solo aging and how can I, connect with them? So
yeah.
that's all.
What is
Well,
that resource, Jennifer? I don't see it in the chat.
I just put it on the website. I'll drop it on the chat.
Oh, on the website. Okay.
Watch for the chat, and then I'll just put in one final plug and we finish up. We have 2 sessions of Neighboring 101 in September. One of them is a bonus session on September 3rd with Mark Dunkelman, the author of the book, The Vanishing Neighbor. Now, I need good attendance because I've only spent 4 years getting Mark Dunkelman to come on 101. It was one of the very first books I read about neighboring. It's called The Vanishing Neighbor. He's a fellow at Brown University. I think he agreed because he has a new book out that's really unrelated to neighboring, but I'm going to try and force him to talk about neighboring and The Vanishing Neighbor that entire hour. So I'd love to have you join us. It'll be on the emails that go out, but it'll be a special one on September 3rd, special time, not the normal 3rd Thursday of the month. All right. Well, we'll bring it to an official end, at the recording at least, and thank you for joining us today for Neighboring 101.